Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Collective podcast, a community for coaches, by coaches. Now, here are your hosts, Ed Hamilton and Paul Blackford.
What's your story?
I was listening to it was a Gabrielle Lyon podcast. I haven't listened to any of hers yet.
I think I've listened to one of
She's frequented Thomas the Lawyer, and this particular podcast is with she's interviewing Mike Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Just about what training do you need to do for longevity. That always draws me in. I'm a sucker for that stuff. But I was talking about nutrition, in regards to getting enough protein in. And Mike's like, I know it's hard, but did you try? I lost it. Because I'm like, he's not wrong. It is hard when you make that change for the first time.
Yeah.
But then when it becomes the norm to actually base all of your meals around a protein, it's just dialed in. That's becomes the way you eat. And then
given mum that one challenge, she was like, I wanted to do this, and just the way she is, and all of a sudden she goes down the rabbit hole of carnivore diet and stuff like this. I'm like, okay, whatever gets you eating more protein. So I'm like, fine, let's just get you on MyFitness Power, and the only thing you need to track is protein intake, and that's it. And so. But yeah, you know what I mean? You just have to set the intention, and it's is it really that hard? If you set up and you have all the tools and the systems there of okay, for breakfast I had 2 eggs.
Yeah.
How much protein was in that?
12 grams.
Okay, good. So I got 100 grams I'm going to eat for the day. This is for my mum. It's okay, what are you having for lunch?
20 eggs.
More eggs.
Do the maths.
Yeah. It's just 20 eggs. That's my only source.
I only got 12 in breakfast. I need to get 100 in lunch.
It's actually been something with this year of tracking for obviously trying to gain more weight. It's become just consistent now, right? It's like anything. It just becomes not a thing after a while. You can probably be a little bit more intuitive. I track pretty much every day, but it's the same thing. I actually the same thing. So I'm okay, now I have to have an apple and this much peanut butter and this many bits of toast and this much protein at lunch or whatever. And yeah, you can just judge it. So then when you're not motivated to track and stuff, if you're I'm just going to try to eat the same. I'm just not going to put that apple on the scale. I'm just going to eat it. So it might not be 115, it might be 103 grams. And you're meh.
Yeah, no, I've never been that dialed in. If I look at an apple and I think if I think it's a medium apple, it goes in as a medium apple. Don't weigh that shit. It's a medium apple. Sometimes I do need to track and weigh, because you just your perception gets right out. I'll put a few slices of salmon on something, smoked salmon or something on something, and I'll be that's 150 grams. And it's 45. And I'm 45 grams. I'm 150 grams. I'm going to be
it's nothing else.
Sinking. It's where's the bread? Absolutely none.
I don't know if we were spoken about this, if we're the best people to talk about
nutrition. I think that was a great start to this podcast.
But you had a question, or you had a topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually just like these casual chats. I was going to talk to you more about this podcast with Israel, because I was I'll dabble a little bit more in some other stuff lately. I call it gymnastics. It's mobility training. That's me getting stretchy. I know the way that you laugh at me is indicative of where that sits with your priorities at the moment.
Yeah,
am I right?
The change in lens of the last year is trying to understand things from a mechanistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Because then it's, are you wasting your time?
Yes.
And it's and also then again, there is the other things of it makes me feel good. I feel better after I do it, and it's great. Awesome thing for me, maybe a little bit more, is time allowance of, okay, you've got this much time to train, and it's constantly just refining, how am I going to maximize this session that we're doing, and go through, we'll write a block that we're going to do next, and it's we might do week 1 and then we'll change it, and it'll be no, it didn't work, let's do that. So I think it's just trying to, something I've kept saying and something I've thought about for us when we were talking about, should we do a workshop or a certification, or should we do a course, or and the phrase in my head and was trying to turn like theory into action and knowledge into skills. And it's like applying all the stuff that I've learned over this last like a year with the prescript stuff and just having like my eyes open to looking through looking through what we do, the craft of coaching, the actual in the gym, you're going to select an exercise for someone to do and being like, I'm trying to understand that like to the absolute dot as to like why you're giving them that exercise. And then trying to not have any junk training or junk volume or like just stepping into an exercise and just really not knowing like what you're doing, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like that was me trying to do a snatch last week. I had like an itch to do some ollie lifting. So I was like, oh, I'll go back Friday. And Cal's doing like this ollie lifting thing. I did like 4 snatches.
It was fun.
I did 40, 50.
You had 80 on the bar.
Yeah. And I fucking buckled.
How did you get 4 snatches out?
What did I do? I did like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So I did 5 snatches.
Oh my God.
And I missed 80 twice. Anyway, I think that's when you tell me that you're doing gymnastics, it's just my thought process goes to what's the mechanism at hand? If you're someone that's doing that and you're like, it's going to make me really stretchy, right? I laugh because I'm kind of like, I laugh, but I'm like, that's not the truth. That won't happen.
No.
From what we know and understand around stuff now, it's like doing once a week stretching isn't going to make you bendier, right? It's not going to make you more mobile. It's going to make you feel good.
It does.
So I look at it from
makes
that.
me feel fantastic.
Right. You stand there and doing his ballerina twinkle toes things, telling me he's doing some stretching. I think it uses me. I actually get a kick out of it. So
we've been consistent for a little while with our primary training, and we call those strength days and whatnot. And I think the tie-into podcast I was listening to with Mike and Gabrielle is Mike basically saying, look, there's all these other facets of fitness that people will talk about, and they'll talk about achieving it with particular tools because they're the best tools for it. And he's like, but you know what? Very simply, he goes, I train in hypertrophy and I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because I'm not the strongest person on the planet. That's not what I train for. But you know what? Hypertrophy training gets me pretty close to being, trust me, like strong guys who look at me on the BJJ mats are like, double take. Well, there's this jack dude who's he's going to be tough because you can tell that I'm strong because that's the way that I train is. And then there's other carryover to other parts as well. Is if you do your strength training in this way, there is cardiovascular carryover. If you do it in this particular way, there is mobility carryover. And without dialing in specifically to looking at a particular, and I'm going to bring up Marcus Philly because you just unfollowed him.
Yeah, he got cut.
He got cut. And I understand why, because you're focused at the moment. Yeah. And for me, I'm a big fan of Marcus, probably more so in his earlier stuff, because I just like that functional bodybuilding mantra of let's look at movement. You come from that CrossFit space where there's all these different modalities of movement. And let's look at movement in a way that we can build strong, healthy bodies. But the more we learn, the more we realize there's a lot of different ways to do that. And it does come back to a lot of the time what keeps you moving, which is the psychology part. Yeah. It's this current modality of training that we're following via prescript frameworks. It's actually keeping us moving because it's interesting to see how the results carry over, how the learnings carry over. That's a big hook for me. How does this work for ourselves? And then I guess beyond that, it's like, how does it work for our clients and how can we apply that further and beyond? Sorry, I've gone on a bit of a rant, but
it's good because it'll tie into what your kind of question was with the thing, but I think following from that, so that's probably why it interests me so much because it's for my clients. And I put a post about that, not that I'm very active on social media, but I put a post on that about, do what you say, like train what you do. So often you'll see new trainers do something for their own training and then they'll come up with something completely different for their clients. It's like, why? Yeah. Like I train my guys exactly the same way I train. Right? Yeah. And it's through the lens of improving function first. Yeah. But like you were just saying then with the amount of carryover from the hypertrophy training style where you push someone to a point on an exercise selection and you're building out their programming to like hard sets of 10s and 12s. Like they're working hard, whatever the movement is that you're doing. And again, generally when we see people coming in with pain, it is, due to some sort of dysfunction at the joint. But generally a lot of people that you work with and or just general people coming into they're not very strong. When we talk about that a lot of people we surround ourselves in the gym, and we get lost in like, I'm not strong. And you squatted something like 140 kilos today. And you're like, yeah, but I'm not very strong. Like I'm not, it's just like the lens that you look that through because it's like 100%. Because Rhonda was standing next to me and she looks over to me and she goes, is that enough weight for you on the bar? And I looked at her and I said, no. I was like, I want it to be more. And it's conversations that I have with clients all the time regarding, we do that because my hobby is the gym. If I just wanted to be fit and healthy, there'd probably be no need for me to squat over like 60 kilos. If I could just maintain that.
Yeah.
But it's one thing that I also took away from that course, not only around like the frameworks and the education, but it was a little bit of the mindset where I'm like I would have been 30. Yeah, so I was 30 and I just packed it in. I was a longevity crowd and I was like, oh, okay, I just want to train for my kids and to be healthy when I had kids. And one of the things that were like in there was like, fuck that. It's like, you have this body, you're never going to be this young again and resilient and like, fucking see what you can do. You know what I mean?
But that's actually truth at any stage. But it was I've been way fitter in my later years than I have. Like I'm actually really old than in my early years. Like way fitter. Like when I discovered that, I feel like my fitness has progressed. And that's a really good mantra to take on in regards to you'll never be this young again. Well, what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do? And I sit back after when I was a lot younger and many years ago, and I'm like, all right, I hit my bucket list of 100 kilo snatch and I hit 200 dead and my best squat is 175 or whatever. And I just put those in. I was like, I'm never going to go near those things again, right? Because I was in pain in my back and this. I'm like, yeah, but look at where you are now. You know so much more and you can do it in a different manner. And from the recent stuff that I have been putting on, of where I'm currently working up and building on some squatting stuff that I'm doing, and that started because of the hypertrophy stuff that we were working on. And it wasn't something intentional where I like originally set out to do that. I was like, I just want stronger legs and where the squats fit into our programming. And the disadvantage that we have of being in a more boutique-y fit, like gym is access to equipment for specific like variability. Oh, can we go the hack squat today? Can we go the leg press? No, we just have to be really good at something that's a very high skill movement to drive a lot of output from. It just started where we were like, all right, we're just going to like legs day, get back into like legs day, and then just build out. And then the mentality of fucking moving better. This weight's feeling good. Oh, like, hey, maybe I could just set a little goal. Like, why don't I try to squat 176? I'll squat the most amount of weight, no knee sleeves, no belt, no nothing. Just try to do it differently. And not willing to sacrifice my knee's pretty sore or my back's pretty bad. Whereas like at 23 or 4 when I was doing that stuff, it was like, whatever.
And you look like a banana.
Yeah, and I'm like full shrimp mode and just like mashed potato. Mashed
potato come up the other day. I actually said to JB, I said, have a look around the room, see if you can pick the mashed potato. And there are a couple of people in the gym who actually had the mashed potato happening. And he says that, and I'm like, yeah,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. But getting back to talking about that stuff for our clients, I have that same intention for my guys, and we have our goals obviously at the start where we're trying to get you back to just being pain-free. But then as we run on that spectrum when we're talking to clients in an initial consult, it's like where we see most people live on that spectrum of like what CrossFit laid out, which is like sick fit, right? And most people just go back and forth between being sick or injured to well. And we talk about that being like a dependency model where they're like, okay, I'm going to continue living my active, healthy lifestyle, and I have a chiro that I go and see, or a physio that I go and see, or a kinesiologist, or whatever, cortisone injection. you name it. It allows me to keep surfing or riding my bike or playing with my kids or whatever. And it's just this constant, I'm injured or I don't feel good. I get my treatment from my person. I feel better. And then back and forth on, imagine it's like a half a circle, right? Semicircle. And they're just like back on this side of the curve. And when I talk to the guys at the start, it's like really the thing that most people haven't tried is just like a long-term strength and conditioning program. And this comes around to now having many more conversations with other coaches on this podcast. It's like, especially Sammy and Carter mentioned it, though, if we could change the story that's told to people in the general pop coming in to looking at a trainer, that it's a health, like Carter said, health and fitness is just a part of your life forever. It's something that you're just investing in, and it's a long-term investment, and we have the rest of your life to do this. And that makes our job much easier because, like we said, we don't have to come in and go, okay, we've got 6 weeks to sort this thing out, or to get fit, or to be ready for the wedding, or whatever it is. It's okay, we've got 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is that you're going to work with someone. And then obviously the lens that I look through with my guys, and if I'm talking about dependency, is I don't want you to be dependent on me. I want to teach you a skill set that I'm passionate about, which is how to feel confident and comfortable coming into the gym. And that is looked through the lens of resistance training, because most people are like, you can't do too much wrong with conditioning. Like, I know there are so many people out there that like, there's so much stuff on conditioning, right? Like, to optimize it 100%. I'm not saying conditioning is easy. I'm saying you can get pretty good with not a lot. Resistance training, the complexity of just human movement in general, adding load into those scenarios, unsure of what implement to use, unsure of how to progress things, how things should be feeling, right? It's
yeah, exactly that. How to progress things, like how to do it safely in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Because anyone can walk in the gym and pick something up, and whatever it is, but the potential for that person to be able to do that in a safe, sustainable way that improves their capacity to do, so that they're walking in 6 months later and picking up something that they never would have fathomed lifting in the first place.
But also like where they can do it and you're not around.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I hear the story, like all the stories are great when my clients are like, oh, I went, and Candy's like, I ran. And she had a knee issue when she first came and saw me. Or she was just generally injuries from being in the gym, a bit of hypermobility stuff, but generally one thing might have been her knee. She's like, I don't even like running, but I ran because I could run. Awesome. Good.
Yeah.
I just need you to, in this time that we're investing in you, which has been almost a couple of years now, it's like having the skill set where I could be like, cool, go and train in the gym.
Yeah.
Follow, and again, this could be like, follow any program.
Yeah.
At least the movements will be good.
Yeah.
I don't know about the frequency and the intensity and this and that, the stuff that you can't necessarily control. But if you want to set someone free in regards to them not being dependent on you and actually
follow this.
Yeah.
Follow something.
Yeah, exactly. But understand what you're looking at. Understand when they say, all right, you're doing barbell RDLs, it's on this tempo, you're going to look at this weight or percentage, and you can step in and go, I know how to barbell RDL.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's what I'm just trying to give. Or you jump back into, as we're part of the gym, so you jump back into classes. And whereas before you're like, man, I'm really struggling in classes, like my shoulder's hurting, my back's hurting. And again, it's classes, it's 20 plus people, it happens relatively quickly, right? You're going through, there's a bit of peer pressure in regards to, I don't want to hold anyone up, I don't want to cause a fuss or this, and people will just literally work through so many issues as in that sometimes. And then they get to a point where like, I can't do that anymore. Like it's just too much. And then your number one goal is, or their number one goal, and I've worked with so many people like that, so I just want to get back into group classes.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to be your own coach when you're in that group class.
Yeah.
You can't become dependent on that person. And that's what we're going to try to do in this next period of time, which means there's going to be a heavy load on education.
Yeah.
Because if I just say, do this program and you turn your brain off, you're not going to get any carryover back into the gym, back into the class, because you're just going to do the same thing when you get back into the class.
Yep.
And I don't even know what we were originally talking about, but...
No, my mind straight away goes to some sessions I had this morning where I was so proud of my first group and my second group as well. Like that's my second group this morning is more of that cardio. You can't really go wrong. But I actually did pan that out into a couple of slower, more deliberate strength stations. And just the guys who were in there, I had 7 guys in that group, and they've trained with me in various capacities throughout years. Some of them have been with me 7 years. Some of them have been with me like for 2 months. But, you know, I think you're right. The education that you provide them to become their own coach allows them to go. It was probably the most inexperienced who I walked up to and I said, "You're sore today," as in your back's sore today, isn't it? All right, put that kettlebell down. This is how we're going to change things out. The lack of experience there prevented him from actually saying to me, "Hey, I'm tender today. Like, I need to look after myself." And as soon as I actually gave him permission, I said, "This is your workout. It needs to look like this." He moved great and he had a great workout and it all worked out fine. The other boys, they'll literally come up to me and go, "Not today." And I respect that. I really do, because it's not my body. I know what I want them to do, and sure, rock up to actually please me, whatever. But it's actually your workout and you've got to be safe. And they know the values. They know what I stand for, which is safe, sustainable. Let's do this for the long term.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really proud of them. And then the first group this morning, amazing. Like, they're actually 3 relatively new people. And we're at like week 7 of their block.
Yep.
And they just got in and got on with it.
Smashed it.
Literally, I had the equipment out. All 3 of them went in different directions. They just worked through the whole thing. Tickety-boo. Made some small adjustments here and there when I spotted things, and they were all over it. I was really proud of them. And that's so good, because it means that I can take leave in a few months and be able to look after themselves.
Both of us are going away at the same time. I guess leading into the original question, or original thing you wanted to talk about. If you're still with us, we're going to get welcome to the podcast.
What were you saying about Theo, his air conditioner? Was it?
Oh, just on one of the podcasts I listened to, some of these guys just like, it'll say the topic was unlocking something for coaching or whatever. And 15 minutes of talking about this guy's air conditioner. I like, normally I'm pretty good.
That's what happens.
Normally I'm pretty good. I can sit with it. I'm like, there'll be some value in this, but that time I got to turn this off. This is terrible. So hopefully if you're still with us, the first bit actually provided some value.
Yeah.
What did you want to talk about? You had a specific thing.
Yeah, so it's come at me in a couple of different directions. So I had a chat with a client a few weeks ago, about personality in coaching. And so what you bring to the table in your coaching style. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute about experiences coaching classes. And we've both done that at the movement. And I know that it's been said in regards to positive that the movement has had for a variety of coaches is actually every single coach bringing their own flavor.
Yeah.
And what that actually means for the class, how it almost personalizes or it makes that class unique from that perspective. And I've heard members say, "I love training with Paulie, I love training with Ed, I love training with Cal." Like, it's all based on that individual style of coaching. And we were chatting about that in regards to my style of coaching having a draw towards particular people, especially maybe vulnerable people who need to feel welcome and safe. And I'm not saying other coaches don't do that. I guess I just have a particular way of doing it. Today, I wanted to talk about how tricky it is to take that component of coaching online. One endeavor I have is to grow my online coaching business. And I currently have a portion of my coaching online, and it's not through Zoom calls. It's actually through programming, check-ins, feedback, video analysis. So it's not at a time of training.
Yeah.
And I know you do that with Mags and Aileen.
Yeah.
So you've got like Zoom calls where you're actually doing a session with them. Yeah, and mine's different. And so like in my, we'll call that like asynchronous coaching, it's tricky to get across to my clients my personality. And so I'm a big fan of voice recorded messages, video recorded messages, because at least then I can get some of my personality out into the feedback that I provide them and the messaging that we can have. And I really value them doing that for me as well. There is some interaction, but the technology creates a barrier. It's a barrier that you have to fight against in regards to getting your personality across. And I will specifically say this in the sales space, it's really tricky to get on a new client that you don't have face-to-face access to in person. I feel like that is so much easier a situation to manage and actually close that sale if you do have that face-to-face, because inevitably that person is buying you. They're signing up for training with Ed, training with Paul. And so, in order for them to see what they're buying, they want to see the products. Yeah. And your personality is such a big part of that coaching product. That was a lot. I don't know if you want to jump into any portion.
No, I think I 100% agree in regards to my own journey with it. And again, it was another podcast that I was just listening to where they were talking, not specifically about this, but just, and we call it like the craft of coaching, but through that whole COVID period of time, if you were in the training, you were forced in that direction. And it just came from that time where the online space blew up. And everyone's like, great, I could just do this. And I don't have to have face-to-face clients. And people are doing really well. And we've spoken about it on other podcasts on here with like the scalability of it. You can just have programs. You can have programs that are just designed and sitting there for people to purchase. You can have a whole online fitness business and potentially have never seen a client. And it was something that they were talking about on there, and it really it was true for me as well, is that I fucking love coaching.
Yeah.
I fucking love coaching. Like I love coaching people. Yeah. And it was like the realization of that in the last year and a bit of I don't like online programming. I don't like that part. I don't like getting someone coming on being like, oh, can you, and I've had it like, oh, can you do my program? Can you program and stuff for me? And I'm like, nah, not keen. And it's so tricky as well because building your business, your financials, like family, all this stuff, we can talk about, everyone's in the same boat with bloody interest, all this stuff, like life, everything's just super expensive. So you do have to come back to your values and be like, what do I want to do? Because I've got to be happy doing this. And there are points in your time in your career where you'll do everything. And like we've talked about as well, you got to try everything. Figure out what you don't like. And I don't like programming, which is why I have 2 online clients and I see them face to face once a week. Because they get the flavor of what we're trying to do.
Enough.
That is enough. And they get the flavor of what we're trying to do, where it's, I need them to see me so that we can work on things that there's so much difference between being a programmer and being a coach. And we have spoken a lot about this in the last like couple months, or like probably 6 months. Let's say it again. It's like you coach athletes, you program computers, right? That was a big thing again that came out of study for me, which was, yes, I believe that so truly, that like there's nothing like being in person in the moment, having a full session written up for someone and they come in with, hey, I can't do X, Y, Z. If you don't have that skill set to be adaptable and make a change on the fly or have something up your sleeve because you're used to just programming, and then like maybe that person just doesn't do that session, it's okay, cool, like you'll catch up next week or whatever. That's the stint of it. But when you're in person with someone, that's part of the challenge. That's part of being an in-person coach, is you've got to be able to do that. And or even just slight tweaks to the programming. Hey, we're not going to do this today because last week this was like that and I wasn't happy with this, and how are you feeling today? And from our check in the week, I want to make these changes. We're only going to maybe do that for a week, but then we'll come back to this. It's so much give and take in there, particularly again in the space that I hone in on, which is like people coming in with pain. It's not this. It's not a linear, week 1, you do 3 by 6, and then you do it at this weight. And then the only progression is through load, and we're going to do 8 reps, and then we're going to go that way. Oh, look, you're doing more volume. And it's like, that's really good. What happens if in week 3, your 9-week program, they tear their quad? What do? You're like, oh, cool. I never program like blocks. I just don't. I don't. And I'll program an idea of what I want to do and what I want to cover. And if we get through the block, amazing. And when I say if we get through the block, it's not at risk of us going crazy. It's like life happens. Other people do other shit outside of the gym, like riding bikes in the middle of the night with a LED headlight on their head, and they fall off their little Pee-wee motorbike. You don't have any control over that.
You got someone that did
that? Was a real story, by the way. Right? One of my favorite clients. If not one of my favorite clients.
He's one of my favorite clients.
And I had no control over that. And the next day he comes in and his elbow's like a balloon. And he's, I'm here to train. You're like, okay, cool. Let's do something. Let's go. You know what I mean? So I think talking about adding in your personality, I think it's everything. I think people come to exactly, you are the product first. If you are what people want, that particular person is what that person's looking for, and then you're delivering on that, that's it. Like they are 100% invested in you, in your ability, but I believe it's like in you. They're going to put a lot of trust in you. And whether that comes from the empathetic side of things and they trust you because it's safe and they can come in and work out and train and do that, or they trust you because you've got a skill set and a knowledge base that can help them where they haven't found help before. And that's, again, the space that I try to live in, where it's, hey, I've been to every physio and chiro and GP and I've tried ice baths and I've tried this and I've tried that and nothing has made my knee better. It's like, great. I get all that information before you start, and then it's like, I just need to know if you have already tried something like this. And typically, like I said at the start, it's no, not really. Like I've maybe gone to the gym a couple times, but I haven't done a long-term like strength and conditioning program. And it's okay, cool. And we talked about it at the start, where we're going to need time and we set all the boundaries. And those early days as well, like really important in getting your personality across and getting how you operate across. And I think that's super important for any young coach. We're going to talk about, you're going to have to find your feet and say yes to everyone and do all the process of finding what you don't want to do.
And I think it's important to point out that your style of coaching and what you want for your clients, how you want to get there, doesn't necessarily fit that online programming space. What I notice with mine is that I do get frustrated sometimes because I can't solve problems as quickly. You can see the needle being pushed in the right direction, and because that's the modality, you have to be okay with that. Clients in Queensland, I've got clients in Perth, I can't be with them, in front of them. And time-wise, it's not always going to work out for an in-person call, but the principles that you provide that person through that asynchronous, like me videoing myself, talking, educating, them learning, them taking on that information, applying it themselves to their session, and then me giving them feedback as to whether they've nailed it or not. It does take a particular type of person, as in the client, to be able to do that. But it's not for everybody. And the same deal goes for the coach. Like you said, you and I, for as much as we like the same style of training and are interested in with biomechanics and doing a good job, we do train very differently, like coach very differently. Whatever the reason, I'm okay with that slightly slower journey with those clients. In fact, some of those clients, it's perfect for them. They slow movers. They don't want to progress too fast. They can't. Some of them got conditions where it actually prevents that chronic pain, whatnot. You're never going to get to a place where it actually pushes them too fast. So it actually works quite well for them, and their lifestyles as well fits into their routines and whatnot. So there is a place where it fits. And I think when I listen to, say, Mac and Thea and let's say other coaches out on the greater internet talking about their various online offerings, there's a lot of different stuff out there. I know Mac does a lot of bodybuilding competition-based clients. Well, you'd expect them to have a decent amount of training age. So their experience and their knowledge is going to be at a level that they're going to be able to take on information from him and apply it much quicker. And whether he is doing Zoom calls with them and actually training them online, or whether it's just the programming and the check-ins and whatnot, it requires a particular client and he is a particular coach. And so it's actually that combination you're looking for. And I guess I'm talking about this because if there's coaches out there, new coaches especially, who are interested in that online space, take it from me. It's not a one-to-one. It's not a take your in-person offering and apply it to online. It's just not that easy. There is once again, when you find your feet for your in-person coaching product, you almost need to do the same thing again if you're interested in going online. You have to figure out what that niche is, what that offering is, how it works, what the value to the client is, are the charges right? It's a whole nother space. It's a whole nother, almost two different businesses, really, completely different offerings. You can be smart. We're going to chat to Dan next week, and he had his great podcast about the hybrid models of fitness business, or the new models of fitness business. And that is 100% a possibility to actually start hybridizing a path whereby you take on a new client and you see them for a period of time face to face, and then you hybrid them into their own online training. That potentially works. Sorry.
No, I think, and again, like talking about, not me being like, anti-online. I'm not anti-online. I'm like, even in the last couple of weeks, I sat down and, started writing out some potential things of like aftercare offerings for clients that are like, hey, I want to continue training. I want to step out of doing as many face-to-face, but I'd still like to work with you. I'd still like for us to be able to work together, having an online programming. But again, that to me would be like only for someone that has gone through that journey. And again, if you're using the example of Mac, they now know everything that they need to know going into the gym.
Yeah.
And I program X. They know exactly how to execute it, what it should feel like, where they should be feeling it, where they shouldn't be feeling it, errors, what we're working on, why they're doing it, all these things. But I would only feel comfortable doing that with someone who's had the in-person and they've got my personality, so they know why that's in there. They know exactly why we're doing something, right? Coming down to that intention versus just like someone I've never talked about before and I give them all the same information and they're like, it's a completely different session. It's the same exercises. It's the same block. It's the same everything. It would be done completely differently. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, okay, is it worth the time? Is it the investment in the online space to get that quality of the program that I like, the output of that program that I want? I'm not getting that because I can't be there with them. I can't have that coaching with them. I need that first, or I feel like for me, I need that first for them to be able to deliver, or like to get the most out of the time that they're going to invest going into the gym and doing that themselves. And that's just like the lens that I've looked through and again, probably more so because I love, I love just coaching people. I'm not super interested in it, but it is something that if I've spent time with someone, built a relationship, right, want to continue to work with them in a different space or in a different way that they would be keen to, or even just because it's a financial reason, which I totally get, right? Again, it's something that I've worked a long time in my career to do, but setting prices that I feel I'm valued at and my work is valued at. And it's like, I understand that's not something that someone can do forever. This is a specific thing that we're coming in to work on for an X period of time. And I'll say to my guys where it's like, hey, we might need a year, 2 years, who knows? It's like, it's going to be this time. If we're talking about shorter periods of time, I'm going to tell you what I can offer in that. I'm going to give you something. We can work the framework. I'm going to give you ways of thinking about this. But we might not be able to get to addressing that because you just need time to do that, depending on the person, what they're coming in with. Particularly for me, working in that space in, I don't even know what to call it, like not pain. I don't know, working with people that have injuries. As simple as terms, it's like doing that online I think that would be really hard.
Really tricky.
Yeah, it would be really tricky. And you could have all the frameworks and have everything like set up, and maybe it would be like you have to do, or not have to do, but you set it up where there's like a lot of in-person online calls at the start and you can back away at the time. But again, not being face-to-face, it's just like, it's not the same over a call. And those relationships, maybe Alien a little bit differently, but Mags obviously was like an in-person client first. And she went through that process of training with me, understanding my personality, and then flash forward X amount of years that we've been doing the online stuff and still seeing her development. But I don't think that would have happened if we weren't calling each other once a week and actually doing that face-to-face. So, like we said at the start, for relating back to if you're thinking about the online stuff, I think really good point that Paulie made, which is like treat it almost as a separate business. Look at it differently from what you can do online because they are two different offerings completely. You can add what you can do and add what you do and your flavor to it from your in-person to your online, but the systems and the structures and everything like that I would be looking into. And again, leaving the show notes, the podcast with Dan for the business of fitness stuff is going to have an absolute goldmine of stuff in there that he's spent a lot of time working on. And I would highly recommend going and checking out that resource for sure, or jumping into the Discord channel.
Mate, it's
and
there.
Talking to him yourself.
It's there. We're doing. Talk to Dan. Talk to me.
You can talk
Don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me. No, but again, that's what this whole thing is about. And this platform of the podcast is to, if you're listening to this and you're a new coach and you're like, what do I do? This and that. This is the whole point. If you have a question and you don't know where to go, we're setting this up and wanting to set this up to be a community for people to just come in and ask questions. It's not about having the answers.
A
but
compass.
It's just about,
A compass to find your way.
exactly.
Yeah, that's right. It's not about having the answers. It's actually about hearing what other people's experiences have been. And like today, a testament to different points of view with, online training and where that sits. Yeah. I didn't have any more to talk about that.
No, I think that was a good topic. I think, personality in coaching is a lot. What you offer through who you are is a lot, and people are drawn into that. Some people aren't.
I'll go back to being stuck on that imposter syndrome and not thinking that you are either enough or know enough. And I'll say it again, that unique filter of who you are coming through to a client, plus what you do know, because you've done some training. You wouldn't be listening to this otherwise. Here, you wouldn't be in front of a client otherwise. But whatever you've got for them, plus who you are, that's a combo you can't create anywhere else. It's a unique proposition. There's huge value in that.
I think the other thing, and maybe I don't know if this will keep this conversation going, but one thing I heard in that podcast I was listening to the other day was like, there tends to be this idea of this like lifespan of a trainer or a coach, where like as you progress in time, a lot of people start to figure out ways of how to work themselves out of coaching. So it's like, I'm going to start as a trainer, then PT, and then I might, I don't know, run my own place, and I'm still coaching and doing that, and now maybe more class-based, and I've got my gym, and then I'm working my way from that entrepreneurship to just the manager, and now I'm just like the CEO of my empire that I've built, which is great, awesome. Like, but I think in my head, I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to coach. I just don't see. I don't. And it's something that I've definitely played around with, and lots of people have asked us, we're like, oh, you do your own thing? I'm like, nah. Like, I am doing my own thing, and I'm doing it in a community that I love, and a place where everyone that I work with I love, and all my clients, and not have the ambitions, and maybe something from obviously what we're trying to do with TCC, and that would be completely different. But in terms of, I'm too passionate about the craft of the thing that we do.
And I really like that, because knowing the business training that I've done, like with Propane and the summit with Dan, and knowing what he's about, and you taking on Active Life, that 10-day workshop, like all of those places have one goal for us as professionals in the fitness industry, and that is for us to be able to make our craft a sustainable thing financially for our future and our families. That's it. That's actually what their goal is. And so you've learned some great skills from Active Life to be able to apply to your business to do that. And similarly, the business summit with Dan Williams was fantastic for building or having a structured way to look at your business and making sure that it is something that is sustainable. Because we know that so many people come into the industry as a side hustle, something that they're tacking on to their main gig, or something that they don't see as, or it's a stopgap to get them through to whatever else they're planning to do. And so that affects the quality of the coaching that's out there, because it's not that main thing. It's, I don't know. I always say rep counter. I'm terrible at counting reps, by the way. All my clients say that's that's it. Like, you get that very different experience of going to a gym and having a rep counter versus going to a gym and learning how to use your body.
I just think it was an interesting topic that they brought up there. He was interviewing this guy, obviously super mega successful, but he was talking about, you still have a heavy amount of coaching in your everyday schedule. He's like, I still have clients, and it's the thing I love doing. I have a business and I have all these other things, but it's not removed me from wanting to take that out. Whereas I think, not that maybe people want to, or maybe they do, maybe it becomes a life cycle and people are like, I'm over being on the floor. Right now, I don't think I'll ever get over being on the floor. I think there can be opportunities and things can arise from other work that you're doing, and you could, I don't have no idea what Odyssey still could be in that, but one thing that, again, for any new trainers, or a heavy belief that I have, and we said it at the start, was like product first. You are the product. And he said that as well in the podcast. It was like, just be really fucking good at what you do. Whatever it is that you do. Whatever path you go down, just try to be really good, like the best at that. And just watch what things will come from that. But coming back to the online thing and the online space is you can put the blinders on people, right? You could have the best website and the social media and marketing and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's, I don't know, maybe it's not the best programming, or maybe you're not genuinely caring about the people that you're offering. You've just got all the systems set up for you to make a living from it. Well done. It's just a different lens than I would look through what this is in regards to why we're doing this and why we're passionate about the craft of coaching, is because it's like, and again, if you haven't, because this will come out after, if you didn't listen to it, go back and listen to the Sam Newton podcast. If you want to talk about someone that's like passionate about coaching, it's like his life story about coaching. It was fucking insane. And probably lit the fire a little bit as well.
I just feel like there's so many more things that we like. I feel like there's places we didn't go. Like it could have talked to him for hours.
Yeah, but it was just listening to the story.
Yeah, and
it was just like a good reminder where this guy has done a lot of different things, but no matter what life has thrown at him, he's come back to coaching. Yeah, and it's hit me in that where it's like, people maybe sometimes, and it is from, we've said like with the education stuff, like, oh, you're a trainer, or you're just a trainer, or you're like this, like I fucking love what I do. I'm good at what I do. And it means a lot to me to do what I do for other people. And it's obviously it's a big passion. And hearing that story of Sammy, like no matter what he was going through, and in that write-up that we said at the start, he just kept coming back to it. Went away from it, and we've all done. I've gone away from it. I went away for 6 months, like we talked about at the start, and didn't want to bar of it anymore. And then you just come back, and this is what I want to do. This is what I think I got to do. So, yeah, if you're finding that balance, if you're in this new age of the fitness industry, like we talked about, it's relatively young. It's very young, and it's a clusterfuck of you can go anywhere and you can do anything, and it's so unregulated and all this. But it's also, I thought about that on the way up here. It's also what makes this job so fun. Because it's not, like you said that to Carter when we had him on, you were like, oh, you did your cabinetry thing, and once you get it, you can, like, have got a skill set, and that's it. I'm sure there is like a master cabinet craft maker out there who's just unreal, but even that, and he might be pushing the boundaries of things that are possible with that. But
he wouldn't get to do that in his day-to-day. It'd literally be a whole nother side hobby.
Yeah, but I just think in our space, it's so new and so unknown.
So new.
And the human body is so complicated that even just to try to understand things a little bit, you open up your world to like, fuck, this is insane. Like, I get to do this with bodies all the time. And I get to learn more about these, and it's just a whole wide world of, it's just never boring.
It's never boring.
It isn't. There's so much going on. And don't try to skip that by thinking you can make faster cash or money, or it's easier just to jump online and miss out on a whole thing of coaching people in person. But again, that's just like, if we're going to name this one online versus in person, I'm pro in person.
Yeah, and it's not even about that. It's actually not about this versus that. You're right. I mean,
we need a title for the podcast.
There's an allure. What is the title for the podcast?
You do that. I don't do that.
Okay.
You name it.
Charlie the Unicorn. Charlie the Unicorn.
All right. Listen to this one.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think we're done. I was about to do that a moment ago, but yeah,
that's it.
That is it.
Oh, we'll leave all the show notes. We'll talk about the things that are in there.
Was there anything you want to talk about in the show notes?
Just whatever we mentioned here, like James Mack and Dan and again, and all the other things we kind of spoke about.
Yeah. And our thing is the community in the Discord channel. You know, that's there. We would love for you coaches to jump in, all coaches to jump in. It's not a huge ask. It's completely free. You will add value. You and your experiences will add value to that community, as does every coach who's in there. And so, yeah,
Probably something we don't plug enough.
I was thinking that the other day. I'm like, oh, we've got this platform and we barely chat about it.
No.
Check the show notes though, because it has a little description as to what the Coaching Collective is and the join, the sign up link as well. But yeah, we'd love to see you in there. The more the merrier, hey?
Yeah. Cool.
Good work, bro.
That was it.
That is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Coaching Collective podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Join all the action on the Coaching Collective Discord community by visiting join.thecoachingcollective.eu/sign up. See you in there soon, coaches.